everyone, this is Crystal, and I'm super excited to be sharing my very first project as a member of the Hip Kit Club design team. Today I'm going to be working in my 2019 Project Life album using this gorgeous kit. This is the February kit, and I have my photos here as you can see. And this year I'm doing Project Life in a 6x8 album, which is something new for me and kind of exciting. And I'm going to start by just kind of figuring out how I want everything to lay out on this spread. You can see I have enough photos for two full 2-page spreads. This video, you're just going to see the first 2-page spread. It was getting super long, so I decided to break it into 2 different videos. So on the left side, I have a full-page photo. I enlarged that in Photoshop and printed it. I wanted it to be outside of the pocket, so it's not going in a 6x8 sleeve. It's going to go directly into the album. So I wanted it to be the size of a full page protector. So as you can see, I'm taking a page protector and just marking out exactly the dimensions so that I can trim it down so that it's the right size. I think I had measured wrong originally, so when I sized it in Photoshop, it was just a little bit bigger than the page protector itself. So that is what the 2-page spread is going to look like. You can see I have 2 empty pockets on the right side that I need to fill. I know I want to use this gorgeous cut-apart paper from Pinkfish Studios' Joyful Days. Or Joyful Day, I think. I definitely want to use some little squares from that. And then I also want to use this paper from, also from Pinkfish Studio. This is from their new Out and About collection. And it's kind of hard to see on screen, but it's tiny little globes on that light blue background, and it is so adorable. And since this is a spread about a trip that we took, I thought it would be perfect for documenting it. So there is a little cut apart piece that says always better together. And I know that I want to use that one. And then there is another one here that says find joy in the ordinary. So I decided to use both of those on this spread. So I just need a paper to back up the find joy in the ordinary to fill up that pocket. So I'm just looking through everything. I really like this blue and green color scheme that I have going so far. So I definitely want to stick to that. Here's a quick look at some of the papers. They are absolutely gorgeous. It was really hard to decide which ones to use because there are so many good ones here. Eventually I go with this one. This is a Hip Kit exclusive paper, and I really liked the scallops, and I liked that border strip, the branding strip at the top. I'm going to keep that on the 3x4 card. So that is going to add some of that darker blue color to the spread, and I'm actually going to place that 2x2 cut apart at the top. So it's going to look like it's kind of hanging from that blue strip at the top of the card. Okay, so this is how the spread is basically going to look. I am going to go away and stitch around these little 2x2 papers. So there you can see I stitched all the way around that one. I did that off camera because there's no good way to see how I sew in my craft room. So for this one, I just stitched across the top of it. So it kind of looks like it's hanging from that branding strip at the top of that card. I really like the way that that looks. Okay, so this is the basic spread. I know I need to add my journaling, so I went away and typed that up. I didn't make you watch all of that, and I'm just trimming it out with my tiny little guillotine trimmer. I've sped this up a lot because this is super boring for you to watch. You can probably tell already that I've printed out way more journaling than is going to fit on that little card, on the space that I have on that card. So I run into a bit of a problem there, but I eventually come up with a solution. So here you can see there's no way all of this is going to fit on the bottom of that card. So I thought about it for a little bit, and eventually I decided to break it up into 2 different journaling blocks. And I'm going to put half of it here on this card and the other half on that full page photo that I showed you earlier. So the first half is going to go on the photo, and I did have to cut out one sentence in the middle for it to make sense this way, but it still works. It still tells the whole story. So this page is actually about a trip that we took at the beginning of February back to my home state of Nebraska. My dad actually had emergency heart surgery, so the reason for the trip was not great, but everything turned out fine. It went better than we could have hoped. So looking back, it was just a nice trip to see family, and my partner and I went by ourselves, which is a rare thing for us. We don't have kids, but we have 2 dogs that we basically treat like kids, so we rarely get to go anywhere, just the 2 of us. So looking back, I'm able to say that we had a good time in moments when we weren't stressed out about the surgery, and it was nice to have that time just as a couple together. So I wrote a bit about what we did while we were there, and the next page will be more about the reason for the trip. So right now I'm trying to figure out how I want to anchor this journaling on this full page photo. So I was thinking maybe I would cut apart some of these frames, which again, I don't make you watch. So I do that off camera. I just fussy cut out 2 of these frames, and I thought maybe I could use those to give the journaling some place to sit instead of it just floating on this page. So I'm going to play around a lot, trying to figure out how I can make this work. I don't end up using both of the frames on this page. I use one of them to give my title a place to sit, but then I just end up adding the journaling directly to the photo, and I think it works out just fine in the end. But I do play around and see if I can figure out a better way of adding it. I thought maybe I could use some of these adorable frames, again from Pinkfish Studios, but or I thought even one of these chipboard pieces. These are from Carta Bella. They're absolutely gorgeous. I thought maybe one of those could kind of sit above or below the journaling to give it something that anchors it, but in the end I just add it directly to the page. So before I add the journaling, I need to make sure that I leave space for the holes. Since this is going to go directly into the album, I don't want to add my journaling and then end up having to hole punch over it and lose some of the words. So I just grabbed my 6-hole punch, and I'm using a page protector to try and line up the holes, but as you can see, it's not working out for me. It's too thick to go into the hole punch, so I end up just marking the holes on the back of the photo with a pencil, and then I use those pencil marks to line up the 6-hole punch, and that works out much better. I'm able to get the photo all the way into the punch and make sure that the holes are where they need to be. Of course, you don't have to have a 6-hole punch to do this. Once you mark those holes, you could use any hole punch to get the 6 holes into the photo. But since I have a 6-hole punch and I already had it out, it seemed like the easiest solution. Okay, so now that I have the holes in place, I can start embellishing this photo without having to worry about potentially cutting off some of the journaling or embellishments that I add. So I decide to start with the title. So I grab my Thickers alignment tool. That just helps make sure that I get the letters straight and get them exactly where I want them. It lets me move them around a bit on the page before committing to where I want to actually glue them down. So the title on this spread is just going to be Omaha, since that's where we were. We drove from Indiana to Omaha and then to Lincoln for my dad's surgery. So, but this photo was taken in Omaha. That was where we started the trip. So I'm just working out where I want to put this on the spread. And that's the great thing about that alignment tool, is that it just lets you move it around, and it's clear so you can see what it'll look like in any part of the layout. So I'm trimming down these journaling strips just to have a visual sense of where they'll be as I'm trying to figure out where to place my title. And then I decide that the title just looks like it's floating up there, and I'm not real crazy about that. So I'm going to use one of these frames that I fussy cut from the Pinkfish Studios paper to anchor it at the top. So it doesn't fit on the frame, but that's fine. It's going to overhang one side of it. So I'm going to adhere the frame down and then add the title over the top. And you can see how easily those stickers come off of that Thickers tool. You just have to lift up from the bottom and they pop right off. It's super handy. Okay, so adding the journaling now, and I'm just doing that with a glue pen. That's the easiest way to get adhesive on these tiny little word strips. So once I have all of my journaling glued down, I can finally start really embellishing. So I haven't done much embellishing so far. I've just really put down the base cards and papers and then added journaling. So I I could leave the spread as it is. It looks just fine as it is right now, but that wouldn't be any fun when there's all of these embellishments to add. So I'm going to start going through the embellishments that were in this kit and trying to figure out what I want to add to the spread. So I'm going to lay lots of things down, and not a lot of it is going to stay. So that's kind of how I operate. I just kind of throw things down on the page, and then I will go back and edit later and figure out what really works and what is just over the top. So I knew that I wanted to use some of these adorable Pinkfresh Studios embellishments. These are from the Joyful Day collection. And they are actually dimensional embellishments, so they all have foam dots on the back of them, which, as you know, isn't real good for Project Life for putting into pocket pages. I mean, you can use them and they do work out fine, but I tend to prefer things to be a bit more flat in my pockets, so I'm going to end up taking off the foam on the back. So I'm using one of these buttons, but I don't want that big foam dot on the back. So I just peeled it off. It comes off really easily, and I haven't stuck that down yet because I'm eventually going to add it to the outside of the pocket instead of inside. It tends to buckle a bit in the pocket if you add it inside, but if you add it outside, you get that same look without the plastic looking stretched or buckled. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to also go through these die cuts. These are also from Carta Bella, and they are beautiful as well. So I find one that says magical, and I throw it down on that photo of our dinner, which was kind of magical. I'm celiac, so I don't get to eat fried things very often. It's not safe for me to eat things from a common fryer. So I was ecstatic when we found a place that had a dedicated gluten-free fryer for fish, of all things, in Nebraska. I know, but it was super good. So I had a fried fish and shrimp platter, which is not the healthiest thing, but it was a rarity, and it was very enjoyable. So I thought that magical die cut would be perfect for that photo. But right now it looks like it's just kind of floating there, and I feel like it needs something to sit on, something a bit darker to anchor it to the bottom of this spread. So I'm just looking through the papers to find some. I'm looking for more of that dark blue. So I have the dark blue in the title, the dark blue at the top of the card next to this photo, and if I can add some more dark blue to the bottom where I have this die cut, then it's going to create kind of a diagonal line that will draw your eye across the page. So eventually I go back to that same paper, the Hip Kit Club paper, with that blue branding strip, and I'm just going to cut off a little bit and tear the edge and use that at the bottom of this photo to anchor that die cut. And I end up really liking the way that looks. So I'm going to adhere that down and then add the magical die cut on top of it. And then I'm going to grab my tiny attacher stapler and just add a couple staples just to give it a little bit more interest and dimension. So I'm nearly done with this spread. I think the only thing I have left to do is to make sure that everything goes in the pocket like it's supposed to, and then I have those enamel dots from that Pinkfresh Studios embellishment pack. So I'm going to add a few of those to the spread, and then that's going to be it. So now I'm going to adhere that button from the Pinkfresh Studios embellishment set. I'm just using some red line tape. That'll make sure that it's not going to fall off of this page. It's not going anywhere. It's going to stay right where I put it. So I added that outside of the pocket to the bottom of that card, and here I'm going to add just 3 little enamel dots just to give this card a little bit more interest. And then that is going to be it. So there are some close-up photos coming up. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to pick up this kit for yourself, I've added a link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all back here very soon.